This video contains spoilers for Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 3. You've been warned. Hi, my name is Vittorio Corbo, and Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's a great game, it's an amazing game, but I feel at this point, people are sick and tired of hearing about it. There's been so much discourse about the game. However, I feel there's one thing that people have not talked about as much, and it's the idea that the game is a JRPG. It stands for Japanese role-playing game, and the game's French, so it makes sense. But there's been a lot of back and forth, if the game should be or should not be a JRPG. However, I feel what's fascinating is when you compare the game to a JRPG, there's a lot of really cool ways that it evolves the genre, and I say that because that's what the devs at Tenfall Interactive said. In the Steam page, they say the game is an evolution of the JRPG. Whether you think it is a JRPG or not, I feel it doesn't matter as much as the comparison to it, because a lot of really cool game design decisions come out when you analyze it as such. And as somebody who has played Xenoblade Chronicles, that's my JRPG of choice, of one I know the best. So I'll do basically a point of comparison between Xenoblade and Clair Obscur to see, how does it evolve the JRPG genre. So the first one we'll talk about is this idea that the game kills off plot armor. So in a JRPG, these are these massive games. They require so many man hours. They have really complex stories. They have big run times. So the idea that a game developer would go ahead and create a character, use them for a bit just to kill them off and not use it again, is just a waste of so much time and resources. So what happens, the example I have is, in Xenoblade 1, when Fiora dies, you start the game and she has an entire kit to her. So, when she dies, it's emotional, but then she comes back. And kind of like a comic book character, when you kill somebody and they bring it back, it kind of makes the death a bit more meaningless. And I feel that's why the death of Gustav is powerful, because he dies and they just throw his kid away, and all that they've made for him, it's just gone. And it just, and you're normally lulled in the sense of security, and that's gone. And I feel the coolest part is that it really commits the game's themes of, the phrase "we continue," and that these are expeditioners that go to die, they're going to war, and when a soldier falls, you keep going. And I feel by making the characters actually die and have a chance to die makes it more meaningful when they perish, and the whole journey of it. And then that brings us to point 2, and it's this idea of there being no moral ambiguity in the game. Basically, in the internet, there's this common meme that, the JRPG always ends with you killing God. And I feel it's a really cool plot device, which exemplifies the conflict in the game. You have the main party that, is here, and they want to kill the God, which basically represents everything that is wrong with the world. And then the party wants to bring a good new world order, because stuff is insane and bad. So basically it's good versus bad. We got to bring a better world order. But the thing about it is, things are never good versus bad. Ethics is a complex subject. In whatever argument of two sides, each will have pros and cons. They both have a point. So just thinking that one can always beat the other one and you just nullify that point is kind of a bit more shallow. Like in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, you have this whole idea of, the main party is, time should live on, time should continue, because the bad guy has made time frozen, and, you should cherish moments, but not hold on to them forever. But in some cases that does make sense. And I feel like, there's pros and cons to both sides, like you should let go, but, you should also hold on in the other side. But the game just nullifies the other side by just, good guys win, bad guy loses, and it's done, and it's over. But that's not how ethics works. And I feel that's what Clair Obscur does really well. You go, you kill God, you bring your new world order, but both endings are pretty bad. And I feel it kind of shows this whole idea that, ethics is messy and there's, pros and cons, as I've said before. And I feel the coolest part is that it commits the game's themes, the whole idea that, we're all hypocrites. And I just feel by making the endings ambiguous, the main party is not, more morally right. And it makes the ethical dilemma of any JRPG more meaningful, at less one note, I'd say. Um, then we come to our third point, and it is the idea that the game is replayable. So if you go to How Long to Beat, you'll see that a Xenoblade game is like 60 hours, the runtime of it, while Clair Obscur is 30. And the thing is, JRPGs as a game genre are very long games with these very complex stories, with plot points that recontextualize everything. So I feel like a replay is actually really nice because you have the foresight of where things go, and you can, well, by replaying it again, you can see how you got there, and you can enjoy the game more. But when it's a 60-hour long game, it's kind of hard to warrant somebody to do that. But Clair Obscur's case, it's 30 hours, so you can easily 30, 60. So in the time you take to play one JRPG, you've replayed one again, and I feel it's not like Clair Obscur is less of a meaningful game or the story is less dense. In many ways, it's just as dense. It cuts out some of the filler, which I feel is nice. So you still have this very complex story just in a shorter runtime, and I just feel that's great. And then we go to a third point, or point three, so it's 3.3, whatever. And that's the game is French. I just feel it's cool that you have a JRPG or whatever you want to call it, turn-based game that has it in a French setting. It's just so refreshing to play a game like that that's normally in very Japanese heavy, and have it in such a refreshing different world, different culture to it. Does it nullify it being a JRPG because it stands for Japanese and the game is French? Maybe, but it makes the game cool. Damn it. And yeah, I love that. And yeah, I feel for me that's my thoughts about how Clair Obscur advances the genre as a whole. I just feel like it's not talked about as much, and I just want to talk about it. And yeah, I'd love to hear what y'all think. I give you my thoughts. I'd love to hear what y'all think. Do you think it's a JRPG? Do you think it's not? Is there other ways it evolves the genre? I'd love to hear y'all. You heard my opinion, so I hope y'all have a great one. Take care. Bye.